From County College of Morris, this is CCM All Access.
Hello, and welcome to CCM All Access, the program that brings you news and information from the County College of Morris. Students at CCM, members of the community, people doing good things. I'm Daniil Barkov.
And I'm Dan Giordano.
And joining us today is Dr. Shelley Kurland, Dean of Virtual Campus at CCM. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Shelley, what can you tell us about what you do here at CCM?
Okay, so Virtual Campus is a relatively new initiative that we have. We started August of 2017, but we have had online and hybrid courses for about 20 years. So, my task is really to set a vision for it, set a mission, and really just carry it through, along with the rest of the college community, the students, faculty members, administrators, and staff. So that's really kind of my process to collaborate with the college community.
I've actually noticed in the past couple of years, so I came here in 2016, so I've actually noticed the improvements from like the virtual courses getting a little bit better and better as they keep going. Can you tell us maybe about some of the challenges that you've had?
Sure, that's great to hear. So our faculty members have been working really, really hard to ensure that the courses are interactive. So you're engaged in both, not just the content, but also with your peers in the classroom. So part of with online is that students sometimes feel isolated. So the faculty members have to really work hard to foster that environment where you feel not just doing a course, but being part of that learning community. So I think our faculty members have been really working hard to get that learning community. But challenges is online is not something that everyone has experienced. So I think if you haven't experienced it as a student, sometimes it's not it's harder to empathize, I guess is the word for it, and harder to imagine some of the challenges that the students may have, just on the technical end, or just that, not having that face-to-face contact or having that safety net. So, I could go back to the face-to-face classroom and ask the instructor. So I think so I think that's a big challenge. And then, but again, we work with wonderful faculty members and who really wants what's the best for a student. So we're all working through it together.
And what type of student would you recommend to take the virtual campus?
That's a great question. I think that the student one has to be really good with time management, have to be proactive, have to really take ownership and be accountable, because like I said, a lot of the online courses are what we call asynchronous. So you don't have a specific time that you have to meet, but you have deadlines, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit on the students being proactive to say, okay, you know what, I have this is due, so let me schedule out the time, because it's easy. It's like I could do that later. I could do that later. So I think the student really have to have that time management skill, and I really just have to be disciplined enough to do that. Not to say that someone who doesn't have that can't do it. I think it's just then you take the opportunity to train yourself to do that, to be successful.
I've actually taken a couple of online courses, like my first year here, and I think my first semester, and then I think my third semester or second semester, I also took a couple, and those deadlines sneak up on you when no one's reminding you about them constantly, So that definitely was a big problem for me, kind of getting over.
Tough.
Yeah, definitely. That would have been. I don't think you've taken any.
I haven't taken any online classes with CCM, but I've experienced a little bit of it. And it is tough.
I enjoyed them. I think, like what you said with time management, because a lot of students, when they, specifically at community colleges, when they come in, it's really easy to just kind of check out, just to come in, do the work, and then if they do the work also, and then just kind of leave, go home, and just kind of ignore it till the next day you have to go to class. But with online courses, that's kind of another element where you're responsible for, in a way, teaching yourself, I guess, kind of,
Yeah, yes and no, I think, but I think definitely that being removed, I think it's difficult, and I think you have that, definitely that feel that where you have to teach yourself. I think part of that is, and I think that goes with the college, is creating those relationships, right?
Yeah.
Creating relationships with your faculty members, with your advisors, with your peers, and really be, have that support structure, around you. I remember when I was in college having study groups, you form your own study group, so you kind of hold each other accountable,
Right.
and help remind each other when, when things are due. One of the things I actually do this parent student session at my school district with my husband. We did it last year, and we talk about maximizing your high school experience,
Right.
to prepare for college and for beyond. And one of the things we talk about is time management. And so during that discussion, it's like, you all have phones, right?
Yeah.
So start using the calendar feature, and
Right.
start looking at, your week, like when do you have to plug in time to study?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I would say for online students is literally schedule your time to be part of the class, just as
Yeah.
you would if you have to come to a face-to-face class. So if it's at night, that works best for you. So, put a slot of an hour or half an hour, something
Right.
like that to help you, stay on task,
Yeah.
with that. So, but it's a different experience. Teaching online is a different experience for faculty too.
Have you taught online?
I have. I had not here. I've
Yeah.
taught. My last one I taught was at Montclair as a graduate
Okay.
course for practicing teachers, because that's where my degrees are
Right.
in. And so that was a 4-week, winter class.
Yeah, so it's pretty intense.
Pretty
Yeah.
intense. It was intense for me. It was intense for them. But it's but you still can create the relationships. So it has to. Faculty has to work hard at it. The students have to work hard at it. My first class I think I taught online was 10 years ago, and I still keep in touch with some of the students.
Oh, wow.
So you can create the
significant.
relationship. Yeah, and then one of them's from Canada. I've never met him before. So you definitely still could create the relationships, but it's definitely have to. On the work of the faculty members as well as the student to create those relationships that you would in a face-to-face class, but now we just do it remotely.
Do you see classes evolving in the future? Because I feel like right now with online courses, a lot of people think of it as maybe like something in the community college as a course for maybe people who don't have time to really come to classes every once in a while, and maybe older people sometimes, But do you see it evolving into something that more students can become like more normalized and maybe like going to other schools, stuff like that?
Yeah, so online has been the one sector that has been growing pretty steadily, I would say.
You said over the past 20 years, right?
Yeah. And not just here, but nationally as well. And then now there's also a pickup of it in the workforce as well. So, I mean, there's been states where the graduation requirement for high school is to take an online class.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's not quite here in New Jersey, but I do know there are high school districts that do online classes. Actually, I have one of my daughters, she took, they're not quite, they're online, but a little bit more of a self-paced class for her between 6th and 7th grade and 7th and 8th.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit more, I guess, normalized a little bit more, not, in terms of the learning experience may be varied, but I think people will become more and more comfortable with it, and as technology gets better and better, I think I think it's going to go beyond to someone who's, the schedule didn't mesh with their work, with their life, or adult learners, or things like that, because, I think it won't be for everyone. Even if you're in it, it's not going to be for everyone. Same thing, it's not going to be for every faculty member. Some people thrive in that face-to-face, and they feed off the energy of it, and others don't. And some people like both. So, but I definitely, it's here to stay, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about our virtual campus here at CCM and some of the differences with online versus on campus. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the positives of a virtual campus, and for someone who's considering going to CCM or getting their education in general, what would a virtual campus have to offer them that maybe other places can't?
So for the virtual campus, what we are focusing on right now is certificate and degree programs. So like I said, we're pretty new. So we just started with like 6 pilot courses, but we're on target to offer 4 certificate programs in the fall, and then degree programs soon to follow.
And what's a certificate program compared to a degree program?
So certificate are usually chunks, small chunks within a major. So for example, one of the ones that we are looking to do is the information security one.
Oh, wow,
So
okay.
that's one of the ones that we're looking at
That's
along
big.
with the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's, so instead of a full degree that have, many courses, so a lot of times certificate programs range between 4 to 6 courses. So nice chunks. And if people who are in the field where they want to just experience it, they can, do these small batches of courses that can help them either enhance their skills at the workforce, where getting them a foot into the industry. So that's so we're starting out with those certificates first, where it's appealing to both the adult population as well as our traditional age college students.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, since you are the dean, basically, of the virtual reality, you must have a staff, correct?
I have a staff of one.
One. Okay. All right. That's amazing. Okay.
I do. I have. She's the coordinator of coordinator of virtual campus services.
Okay.
She's fantastic. She's been around for a long time. She used to be the coordinator of distance education.
Okay.
So she's fantastic. We really work more as a partnership, than anything. And she and I are actually we've been friends for a long time too.
That's so cool.
So
Yeah.
it's a great working experience. But she's been a big piece of helping us move this initiative forward. One of her biggest tasks right now is we're not developing a traditional student orientation because we didn't want it to be where an orientation is going to not allow the students to enroll in courses. But what we really wanted to do was almost information, like a 411 of, what do you need to know about the college? What do you need to know in terms of the processes that, you may need to go through, registration, financial aid, whatever it is. So really, it's a comprehensive, course, not quite course, but I guess just a resource for the students, so they can pop in and out and get the information as they need. But again, it's not, we didn't want a traditional orientation. It's more like just informational 411, and so the students can hopefully see. What we would encourage is have the students make sure they go through these modules first, and then so they come in not so just overwhelmed.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Before we go into a quick break,
Sure.
Can you just tell us about maybe some of the challenges that maybe some teachers have with adapting to the new courses, or maybe kind of getting used to them? Because I know it definitely, as technology progresses, it must get more difficult, and for people who were raised in different generations, it's definitely a little bit harder.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah. So I think the first and foremost is just having an open mind, right? Because part of the reasons why we had this pilot is because we added a couple new software to the virtual campus and for faculty and also staff. And part of the virtual campus is also we needed to make sure that all of the student services become virtualized as well. So we have online tutoring that's been going on since September. So various things. So eventually we need to make sure that all these services except for counseling, but that's legislative, reasons, become available for the students. So in terms of faculty, so it's really one, familiarize with our learning management system, which is Blackboard, so that can be, a little bit challenging at times, to utilizing it not just for content, but also how do we foster that engagement that we talked about, that interaction between faculty and student, and then student and student. But now, like one of the software that we had gotten was called Shindig, and it's a web conferencing tool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so faculty, they can do virtual office hours, but if they wanted to, they can do a synchronous session, and the students can do group presentations if they wanted to, and the software also allows students to break off into small groups if they're doing group projects. So really fun things. We have recommended an online proctoring service, so if students live far, then they don't have to search for a testing center, so they can do it online. So there are just various things. I think one of the challenges is trying to keep up with all of these things. So we wanted to make sure that we tested everything out before we kind of roll it out to everyone.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So.
And now we'll take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.
Not all County College of Morris students look like me.
Some look like me.
Or me.
Or me.
Or me.
We all come to CCM at different stages of life and for different reasons.
I plan to transfer to a university.
I'm training for a new career as a nurse. But we all know one thing.
CCM is where we want to be.
So check out the website.
Check out the website.
Check out the website.
And let CCM connect learning and your life.
And we're back on CCM All Access. I'm Dan Giordano.
And I'm Daniil Barkov.
And we're here with Dr. Shelley Kurland, Dean of the Virtual Campus at CCM.
So, with the virtual campus, can you please tell us a little bit how you got started in this position?
Okay, so I didn't start in education really.
Okay.
So my first job was actually athletic training, and then with that was my undergraduate work. Then with that, I went and got my master's in teaching in special education, and so I was teaching at higher ed. In high school for a little bit over 9 months, and then 9 years. Sorry, and then and I had the opportunity to go over to higher education. So I was at Centenary College for a while with their adult program. And
Was that still special ed?
No. So for Centenary, at that point, they have a separate unit that is dedicated for adults. And so and their focus is actually in business.
Okay.
So they started looking into doing online programs. So they kind of brought me in for my expertise in terms of curriculum design.
Okay.
So not in terms of content, but just really designing courses, activities, and things like that. So that's really kind of me dipping my foot into the whole online world. And I also was very intricately involved with faculty development. So with that, I was at Centenary for 4 years and then had the opportunity to come here at the Center for Teaching and Learning, where I was the instructional designer here. And again, part of my job is faculty development. So I did workshops with faculty members, and I designed courses with faculty. So when this position came up, I was essentially promoted into the position because of my experience with distance education. So at this point, let me see, 2003, I think was the first time I dealt with distance ed. So it's been a while.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so it's been, so that's kind of how I got here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you maybe tell us a little bit about your education background, like where you went to school, and I know you said what was the first job that you had?
And I was an athletic trainer.
Athletic trainer.
Yep.
So what made you decide to be an athletic trainer, and then just change it to a very different career choice?
So athletic training, I kind of just got into it by mistake. I was at Rutgers in New Brunswick and met a friend, and she's like, I'm going to this sports medicine club. You want to come? Sure. I was a freshman, so why not give it a try? And I absolutely fell in love with it. So I was actually initially doing pre-med anyway, so it's similar track in terms of the courses, the core courses I needed to take, and just really fell in love working with athletes. Doing preventative care, doing aftercare, and doing injury rehab and things like that. So just really. And at that point at Rutgers, it was what they call an apprenticeship type of program. So I had to do minimum of 1,500 hours prior to even sitting for the national certification exam. So I had tremendous hands-on experience. I've left the profession for well over 15 years, and I'll tell you, I still remember a ton of stuff. I still remember how to tape ankles. I still, so it's just, just because you've done it thousands and thousands of times. So I'm a huge proponent in terms of getting hands-on, learning experience and making things relevant, tying what you're learning in class and what you're doing in the field. So that really kind of set me up with a lot of who I am as a teacher and educator. As for the going into teaching, it's actually kind of a relatively common thing because athletic trainers often are in high schools, so then they kind of do the split time, and that's what I did for a while.
That
So
makes sense.
Yeah, so after I got my master's, I did split time doing athletic training and then special education at the high school level.
Okay. What high schools did you teach at, if you don't mind me asking?
So
Are they like in New Jersey or somewhere? Okay.
yeah, so my first teaching job was at Verona High
Okay.
School, and then I moved over to New Providence High School.
Okay.
So those are two high schools I was at. But I was actually I'm actually a third generation teacher.
Wow.
My mom was an art teacher when she was in Taiwan, and then my maternal grandparents, they were both elementary school teachers in Taiwan.
That's amazing.
So, yeah,
Okay.
so it's pretty
Wow.
cool. Yeah. so I love, it's kind of in my blood, I guess you can say.
So what advice then would you have for students that are, going through college, trying to figure out, or maybe even in high school, senior, junior year, thinking about colleges and what they want to do for a career? I can speak personally. A lot of times it's difficult to know truly what you want to do.
Yeah.
And
Especially at 18, you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've had the opportunity of seeing where your career has taken you. It just made sense going from one thing to the other. So do you have any advice for people in this position?
Yeah. So I think one of the best things I think for anyone is to really get to know yourself. Be reflective, be insightful on who you are. What are you passionate about? What is it that you really care about? And what is it that what are some of your strengths, and what are some of the things that that it may be challenging for you, but you're willing to push yourself. So I think for me is really do in the long run is just do what your gut tells you.
Yeah.
That's right. Whether if it's changing mid-career, changing whatever, I think it's really just listening to yourself in terms of where you think you want to be. And then there's nothing wrong with changing jobs.
Right.
I've changed my job multiple times as an adult.
There's no shame in that.
No, not at all. And then, and what you do is there's always lesson learned from everything you do. So you take those lessons and you apply to your next ones.
Right.
But one of the things, we were talking before about, being so young, coming out of high school and then having to make a decision, this lifelong
For your
decision.
whole life.
For your whole life, right? So I've been kind of toying around the idea. I have two girls, sixth grader and eighth grader, and toying around the idea. It's like,
Time's coming.
Yeah, and then, but I'm okay with them taking a gap year.
I think that should be more okay for students. I think it's kind of stigmatized, that you shouldn't take it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
That's true.
I mean, I ended up going to a big school my first semester, and I basically ended up transferring right after because I realized I don't know what I want to do. Like, I'm just here because I was told I need to do this.
Right.
And then when I came to CCM, I still had a hard time for the first semester just adjusting.
Yeah.
But then I ended up changing my majors, actually finding out what I want to do. And then also a lot of kids don't understand how many resources schools like this have as well.
Yep.
Like the virtual campus, just in the past, 4 years, how far it's come, how it's advanced.
And you saved so much money.
Oh
too.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And then you're given, there's a lot more chances to see what you want to do. You can work with, teachers, not teachers, but people such as yourself who understand, who have been in our positions that can help us out.
Yeah. I know. I mean, take the time to volunteer, do internships, do different things. It's just, and again, that's a personal thing for me, and I'm okay with my kids doing that. It doesn't mean every parent's going to be okay with that, but I think but take a breath. I think my biggest advice I think to the students is take a breath. Just take a breath and just figure out what is it that you're passionate about. Like for me, I always love teaching and learning. Like, for me, learning is such a, and I just happen to be okay, being pretty good at it, so, and being able to create the relationship that I need to kind of, connect with my students and when it's needed. So I think it's really just trying to be insightful and reflective and then really trust yourself. I think that would be my advice. That's my advice I give to my girls. So I would give the same advice to other students.
Okay, all right.
And how old were you when you realized that you really loved learning? Was that something you always knew, or was there a time or a period?
I think talking to my mom, I've always been very curious. I always love learning. I read all the time across all different genres, and I'm just always curious. And I'm never one person shy about just trying things. We're playing. One of the things when I work with faculty is like, just pick it up and play, you know,
Yeah,
especially when it comes
I
to
like that.
technology.
Yeah.
Like, you just play, because you're not really going to mess anything up. I'm like, you're not really going to delete things. They usually give you a warning, you know, if you're going to end up deleting something. So I think it's just, you know, it's a little bit, for me, I think I've always enjoyed learning every little thing and having so many interests. So I think that's just kind of just part of me.
Yeah, I think for a lot of students our age with like learning, I mean, I myself was not the best student in high school, mainly because, you know, you're kind of restricted to things that you have to learn. But then coming to CCM, you can see that you're able to pursue a path, and then the things that you want to learn, you become a lot more passionate, and then you learn time management, and you kind of understand it way more. And I think that like a gap year was definitely something that I should have taken just to kind of reflect upon that, you know. Okay, and one more thing.
Sure.
So, for example, with like virtual reality and stuff, and we were talking about how things are advancing forward and just becoming more and more. Now, do you see virtual reality being like a portion that could be beneficial towards like the future of like education?
Yeah, why not? You know, so why not? We do have a virtual reality major here.
Yes.
So again,
pretty new,
relatively
right?
new.
Yeah.
I think it just started this September. I've had the opportunity to work with the faculty members who've been involved. So we, you know, we have conversations about, okay, you know, how can we bring this into the classroom and things like that. So, but absolutely, I mean, to be able to be immersed in an environment that you're not in is fantastic. You know, what a wonderful learning experience. So let's say you are doing a history class, and you, like I said, I think Google Explorer is one where you can do VR experience, and I think you can go to the Egyptian pyramids. You know, how cool is that? You know, you put on this, and you can get immersed, and then you can feel as if you are there, as opposed to looking at a 2D picture or something. I actually think that there is space for it. There's some institutions that is, you know, that's using part of it. I don't see why CCM wouldn't be part of that. You know, so we're exploring it. I'm working with Center for Teaching and Learning. This the co-director is like, yeah, hey, you know, let's start playing with this. You know, what can we do? How can we bring it to the class? Why not? Yeah.
I can see that being big for visual learners. I myself am a visual learner.
Yeah.
Looking at just like the textbook, you know, after a while, like after they're like 20 years old, it's kind of difficult. But then like that could completely open up a brand new like avenue for students.
It makes it alive.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now this the Center for Learning
for Teaching and Learning.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what you do there?
Sure. So I used to be there. So Center for Teaching and Learning. It's really a support place for faculty, staff, and students. Actually, they just opened up to supporting the students as well. It's really there to work with faculty and staff on anything they want to try. Like, you know, sometimes they'll introduce, like when I was there, we would introduce new ways of adding technology into the classroom. When I was there, when the iPads first came out. So I was able to get a grant that had 10 iPads, and then I have faculty members who worked with me in getting iPads into the classroom. And the way we did it was iPads are not it's meant to one-to-one, but we designed it where it's one iPad for a small group, so they can learn to work together as a team, and you know, so that's part of the active learning piece that I'm excited about, and I do work on. So I think it's a little bit of introducing how do you add it, and then if faculty members sometimes they want to try something new, then they come in, and so it's really just a support structure. I think of it as a lab for both faculty and students. You know, go in and try things and play, you know, and see how it works. You know, if you don't try, you don't know if it's going to work. So it's, but it's been around for a while. Right now, you have 2 full-time faculty members who split their time in there, and they've been directing the direction of the Center for Teaching and Learning. So it's been great. It's a really great collaboration and partnership that I have with them. Yeah.
I'm still actually a little surprised when I hear that like you and your staff are just you and one other person. Like, it's surprising me. I would think it'd be a team of maybe like 10, 15 people, something like that. So the work that you guys do is amazing. Just putting all of this out all together.
We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. You're making our lives easier. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
So one question I had, I want to go back a little bit to your education.
Sure.
So I found online that your undergraduate GPA at Rutgers was 3.18.
We're putting you on the spot.
We're putting you on the spot here. This is so cool to me. Your graduate GPA from Montclair was 3.97, and your doctorate GPA, also from Montclair, was 4.0.
Yes.
So
Now you just embarrassed me, but okay.
yeah. But this is really good because I want to know what drove you to achieve this level of excellence. You know, we're almost in your position. You know, where you were at, and that
Not anywhere close to that position.
Right. Yeah. So that's what we want to learn about a little bit is. Obviously, you have to be really passionate about the things you're into in order to be that thorough with the material that you were learning. And I think, and I feel like Daniil would agree with me, that's a really valuable thing to have in this phase of our lives is being passionate about things we want to do. So what can you tell us about what drove you to achieve this level of excellence?
So I think it all starts out with my family. So culturally, I'm from Taiwan. So, education has always been, such an important piece and valued, in my family. So, the gap year was never an option, that type of stuff. So, so you kind of just went on and did things. But I think for me is that I've been very fortunate, like I said, I fell in love with athletic training. So, and what happened was, like I said, it took, because I was in that sports medicine club and I was doing hands-on stuff, I was able to take what I learned and then be able to say, oh, this is what it looks like. Oh, this is what it means. So for that piece of it was, again, once you go to college, you learn differently, and you learn to learn differently than when you're from K-12. And then once I hit, my master's and my doctorate, this is, especially my doctorate, I'm like, this is where I want to do, my doctorate was in teacher education, teacher development. Like, I just love working with faculty. I love working with teachers, and any educator. So for me, it was just anything I could get. It was just, it was just, bonus. Even it's challenging work, had a family, have a family. So you just, you just work it out, working full time, going to school and family. But I think a lot of it is just, knowing that you have a goal, and then this is how you want to reach it, and you work towards that. I have tremendous support around me, whether it's family or friends. That's super important. Don't do things on your own. Find your support system. It is so critical. And another one, I think, is just my plain stubbornness of getting through things. One of my friends for my doctorate program, after I defended, she gave me a mantra bracelet, which I wear every day, and it says, nonetheless, she persists. And that's just me, So I think a part of it is, like, I think everyone has an inner strength, dig deep, when it's challenging, get through it, rely on your support system, whether it's a friend, a family member, someone that you met, that staff member, whoever. I think, get that support system and get you through. So that's how, I get through a lot of that.
I think you're right with like challenges and like that a lot of people don't understand that you need to go through the difficult stages and like to put in the work to actually get the rewards. Like the diversity will make you stronger. It'll make you a lot more beneficial and like in the long run. And even the careers that you had that you don't do anymore, I'm sure you learned a lot in those positions that help you out now.
Absolutely. Yep. Every little lesson learned. So you just kind of add it to my life. So that's great.
And last question would be, what advice do you have for students to get the most out of CCM?
Well,
Relationships. Create relationships and go out there. Don't just come on campus and leave, because it's easy to do that, because we're a commuter school. We're a commuter school. So, but create your relationships. When you're, this is what I see a lot, is in the hallways that there's sometimes very little interaction going on with the students, because you guys are all on your devices and you guys are doing whatever. But I'll tell you, some of my closest friends, I met my husband too, when I was in college, just randomly having a conversation.
That's a selling point.
Because it can be lifelong, right? Because some of your relationships you create now can be like literally lifelong, and it could be life-changing. So I think for me that's the most important piece, is for everyone for the students to create relationships with new students, create relationships with your advisors, create relationships with your faculty members, administrators, whoever it is, because by creating those relationships, you may be open to new things that you didn't realize exist.
Right.
Right. Whether it's, you didn't realize about the career center that we had and how robust it is, or just any other thing, or clubs or anything like that. So, create those relationships. Don't be afraid to try things.
Yeah.
So it's really just a matter of putting yourself out there. It's a little bit uncomfortable, talking to people you've never met.
Oh yeah, I'm actually pretty introverted, so that I have to really force myself to do things.
Yeah.
But in the long run, that has always been beneficial to me, than kind of just hiding in the corner.
Yeah.
So yeah. But
Well, Shelley, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you so much for coming and talking with us.
Well, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Of course. This has been another edition of CCM All Access. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.